Good afternoon. The Design Review Board 2 public meeting of August 14th, 2008 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within either 7 or 15 calendar days of the DRB decision, depending on the application. The case planner will announce the length of the appeal period with each case. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Carter, absent. Ms. Friedman, absent. Mr. Gergos.
Here.
Mr. Zarifian.
Here.
Mr. Malikian.
Here.
Okay. Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on August 7th, 2008. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item that's not a part of the agenda? Nope. Okay. We're on to the review calendar then.
All right. Any staff announcements?
We do not have any.
Okay. We don't have anything on the consent calendar, so we'll go ahead and start the cases. 2 PDR 2007-003-B, 1263 Raymond Avenue.
Yes, Mr. Chen, Design Review Board members. This case was reviewed in December of 2007. The proposal is to demolish an existing single-family house, rebuild the house, while utilizing an existing garage that was built a few years ago on the front portion of the property, and an existing house that's in the rear portion of the property proposed to remain in place. There's a large oak tree on the property also. This was reviewed in December, as I said, and the decision of the board was a unanimous return for redesign with a number of conditions. One of the conditions was for the applicant to work with the city's urban designer on the plan revisions prior to the application. That happened, and the case has been scheduled in front of you for a revised as a revised project. If I may go over the main features. With respect to site planning, the overall site planning is the same as the previous site plan. However, there was a condition from the board to reduce to increase the amount of landscaping, but it seems that in the revised drawings, the amount of landscaping has been reduced from 49% of the lot area to 45% of the lot area. Staff's opinion is that the landscaping can be increased by removing unnecessary portions of the large circular driveway in the front. With respect to mass and scale, the massing of the house has been modified and improved. However, the balcony in the front should be considered to be redesigned so that the massing can be improved, and the portion of the roof that's below the balcony can possibly be unified with the roof portion over the garage to emphasize the horizontality of the mass, or increase the horizontality of the building mass. In addition to this, the entrance volume can also be redesigned to improve the massing of the building.
Can you explain that balcony again?
Yes. If I may come up.
Yes, please.
Why don't I go through the staff report, and then I can come up and point out the balcony. With respect to the building design and detailing, the architectural style, while the applicant is expressing that the building is designed in the contemporary style. There are also Spanish Revival style elements on the building, and staff thinks that these should be consolidated or unified. With respect to the board's conditions from the past review, the first one was to provide an accurate site plan showing the location of the drip line of the oaks. That has been done. Revise the massing and the architectural style of the house to fit the neighborhood. The massing has been modified, and some improvements can further be done. As I pointed out, the architectural style, there are different style elements that perhaps can be improved on. Provide a landscape plan showing all the planting and the location of the trash area and the driveway. The landscape plan has been revised. The location of the trash area has been shown. But as I pointed out, the amount of landscaping has been reduced, and that was condition number 4, to increase the amount of landscaping, especially on the sides of the house. And condition 5 was to work with the urban designer on the plan revisions, and this has been done. Staff's recommendation, having said all this, is for approval of the project with a number of conditions to reflect what I commented on. And let me point out the balcony question. Initially, there was a cantilevered balcony over the front portion of the house. This has been redesigned to a different style, and what we are saying is that this roof portion below the balcony can perhaps be unified with the roof portion over the garage and over the entrance to emphasize a more horizontal mass. This balcony wraps around the corner and is visible from the side also, right here. The second feature of the front is this deep entrance mass, which is visible here, and perhaps this can be redesigned also as part of the entire design of this volume, and it's a consideration on the part of staff.
And those are the two colors that are for the different areas?
Yes. This is the revised material sample board. The photographs are here, and that's the previously reviewed material sample board.
I have a question. Can you elaborate on how the extended entryway redesign, how should it help the volumetric?
Because it reads as a larger volume here because of the post.
That it pushes out of.
It pushes up, but the door is not here. The door is way back here. Maybe this entire volume can be increased a little bit, the entrance placed here, without this deep mass. So this is a potential redesign along with the balcony and the roof section here. And we are talking about possibly unifying the roof section here with the roof section over the garage. Let me point out also that the garage is existing. It was permitted a few years ago. Initially, the way it was proposed, the roof pitch over the garage was steeper. That has been redesigned to a lower roof pitch. But the location of the garage and the footprint of the garage is the same. I would like to wrap up my presentation unless there are questions of the board. The project applicant is in the audience for questions.
Rafi Nazarian.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rafi Nazarian. I'm the designer working with my son, my partner, Sipan. We worked on this project for almost 2 years now. This is almost the 4th time we are redesigning the whole house, because it's not only what Mr. Vigan or you or me want, that the client, they want to live in the house. They insist on having the bedrooms on the 2nd floor because of the two small kids. They really wanted balcony in the front, and that was the best way we could come up with a little balcony behind the roof pitch, which is not even visible somehow. And by the way, the lot has a little slope, so the garage is much lower than the front of the house, emphasizing the whole.
You need to move the mic in front of you.
Sorry. Emphasizing the whole roof with the garage. We tried that also. It creates other problems with the detail because we have different frontage, and stepping back and back, there's a lot of breakage in the roof. We couldn't come up with like one solid horizontal line, which we really wanted ourselves. So we thought about that. It is the best possible way we could come up. And besides, the last time when we had meeting with Stephanie and Chris, we submitted the final look at the proposed house, which we had no problem like that, especially with that roof area in the front. And there is another question: if we try to increase the square footage, we're going to go over the limit, so I can't do that. I cannot cut from the back because I tried. They don't want to have a small kitchen or bedroom in the backside. It's almost the minimum size of which meet the requirements. I'm sorry. So it's question of square footage and question of meeting their needs, which the bedrooms upstairs, balconies for each bedroom, and the slope of the house limits my abilities to emphasize the whole roof and the front together. And that deep area, which can be considered as a covered patio, we can add some landscaping over there. We can put some chairs, some waterfall, whatever. We can design that a part of landscape. But the deepness of that created because of that roof continuing from the side of the garage to create that horizontal breakage in the mass. That's what one of the conditions was, and we worked around it a lot. And if anything else, any other suggestions, we can work, but completely redesign the house, it's kind of a little unfair for this time, because every time I have to deal with you, with Chris, with Stephanie, and with the owners. So I wanted you to consider my situation. I don't have a flat land. I don't have a lot of opening for the square footage, and every little element affects the other one. And this is the best possible way we came up. We increased. That's actually the cost of the project is increased a lot because of the last design, final change. They are not very happy with that, but I insisted that we have to meet also cities and planning department and design board requirements to come up with a common agreement for this house. So they are not happy, but they are still willing to cooperate with that. But the landscape, I don't think we decreased the amount of landscaping, Chris, because what I did the last time on the side of the driveway in the front of the house, I had them cut. I mean, actually, I specified to cut the existing concrete and add more landscape. And decreasing, I don't see anywhere. It's just, can you?
Well, if you look at both site plans, the design of the driveway, the initial driveway had a curved back edge. That edge has changed to a more rectangular edge on the revised, and I think that's what's causing a reduction in the landscaping.
Yes, exactly. The existing driveway, which was built a few years ago, in the drawing, in the first, submission, it wasn't exactly what it was there. So that's the one exactly is there, and we have the pictures actually. You can show. Yeah. If
I have a
that's
question.
more, yes.
I have a question. Do you guys have any questions?
I just have a couple.
Okay,
quick
why don't
real quick.
and then we can.
Just had a couple questions. Within that contemporary style, what I think is going to make it successful is that you have the windows recessed. It looks like you have almost 2 or 3 inches of recess on the window, which means that would pretty much be like a 2x6 or 2x8 wall. and you're not really showing that on the plan, it would have an impact. So are you, if this is what you're proposing, the wall would need to be thicker.
Yes,
So
that
we
is exactly was Chris's suggestions, and we are,
Okay, but the plan would have to reflect that the wall is thicker,
we'll do that in the plans.
because we'd be conditioning that
Yes,
so that the
yes.
wall was thicker.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Just to clarify that that's a recess.
Yeah.
The second thing, on the outrigger and the soffits of the roof, is that, your intent is to do an older style? Because that is sort of a mix of styles. Is that, you're sort of wavering on that, or is that important to you that those details are there?
We can waive it.
Okay, I'm just curious, that was all.
Question, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. You had a question?
With regard to the same issue, these, the beams, the real beams will be sloped, right?
They're like
They're supporting.
roof rafters,
So you,
continuation of the roof rafters.
have you looked at that, if you expose those rafters, how, or do a detail that is different from,
In fact,
these are added pieces, right?
some of them on the other side, because I can show you this picture, which is the next door house, which is recently finished.
Okay.
It's kind of,
Yeah, so some of these are real structural pieces?
yes, the end of the rafters are structural, but in the front are added pieces. That was Stephanie's suggestions, to expose that as a wood and then
So
stain it different color.
the ones facing the street are real?
Okay, the one going with the A roof, extension of the roof, they're part of the, end of the roof rafters. But the one in the front, they cannot be, they are just extended pieces.
Oh, I see.
But these are attached, these are just ornamental elements there. They're not actual, correct?
Oh, they're actual lumber, they're actual wood.
No,
They're
meaning...
not structural, though.
They're not structural.
Okay, as I said, can I come over?
Yeah, can you show us, please, which...
Okay, these big ones are not structural, they're added. But end of the roof rafter and crown, which is part of this,
But then they're
bottom part is
horizontal.
attached to that. Yes.
Take a look at your section, but your section is not really
Only
shown.
this, yes, this is what I'm saying. This is a continuation of the roof rafter,
Yeah.
and the little piece on the bottom is added.
Yeah, but it's not structural.
No, that's not structural.
Right, that's what we were asking.
Yeah, but the part of it, which is end of the rafter, is,
Yeah.
but that is not structural.
So it marks the end of the rafter, but it's an added piece.
There's added piece on the rafter, yes.
Okay.
My question to you is the number 2, and this is just a question, it's not a discussion, I just want your comment and how you address that. And we recommended, or our suggestion was that revise the massing and architectural style of the house to fit the neighborhood. And the response that we got from the staff was that the massing of the house has been changed to include plane variations and a second story that is stepped back from the first level. And my question is, I'm trying to look at the actual plan of what I've seen, and I'm comparing, we didn't have this, and that's why I wanted to see this. From what we had originally, what we saw originally, without really getting to major review of the plans, the only spot that I see that has been somewhat affected has been in the back right here. The rest of the building, it's pretty much
No, the
the
front
same.
is pushed forward like 7-8 feet, right side on the front.
This has been pushed forward?
Yes, the first floor was pushed forward almost 7 to 8 feet. That's what created that breakage.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's 12 feet
Yeah, you
here.
pushed the first floor, the first
First
floor
floor,
extended. The second floor stayed the same, but the first floor extended.
this part is...
The living room, the dining area.
Yeah, exactly.
The dining area
So
extended.
by
out further.
pushing this
Yes.
out, you try to address that. Okay,
By pushing with that, we just created that breakage.
Okay. Thank you.
Gradual breakage.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
The comment also referred to the cantilevered balcony on the front in the prior version versus the removal of that balcony and the stepping back of the second floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Armand Borachian? Bonarchian.
Hi, my name is Armand Onarchian. I'm the owner of the property. My concern is this, I'm really getting tired of this whole thing going on. In like 2 years, I'm waiting, and my house is falling apart. I wish you guys could come one day. You are my guest. I can take you in there and to see how the situation of my house is. And my kids get tired, I get tired. I don't know what to do really. It's just going on and off, and I don't know if there's any suggestion that we can go through this and we finish the project. I will be happy, and my kids gonna be happy, my family gonna be happy. I really don't know what to say. That's all I want, just the project go ahead, and before the winter again, I want to start the project, if it's possible, please. That's all my concern is.
Okay.
About the architecture, all of that stuff, I don't know that much. All he knows, and he's the designer and whatever, and you guys know much better than us.
Okay.
So, please do whatever.
Just remember, we can't design it for you.
I
We
know.
can tell you what the issues are that we see,
Absolutely.
and we can't design it for you.
Absolutely.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I have Zulma Sandoval.
Hi, my name is Suma Sandoval. I'm the owner of the house. And my main concern is, like my husband said, we've been working for 2 years with this project. I have 2 small children. And also, when you want to build a house, it's a house that you want to stay forever. This is our opinion. I have a boy, 7 years old, and a girl, 9 years old. And it's been a lot of change. We're trying to work with you guys, but also, this is my house. I want to design my house, and I will be able to live in a house that I come and I say, you know what? Wow, this is what we did. But every time it's a change here, a change there, and it's our money. It's very costly, you know, and also we're trying to work with you guys too, and we try to work with the architect. But you guys want changes too, but also it's my needs. It's not that I want to buy this house and sell it, or it's a house I want to see my kids grow. And if continue, like my husband says, winter is coming. And if we don't do anything about it, it's like our money is like, everything's getting more expensive. Our money is getting less, you know, at the time. So please, I don't know what to do anymore. It's like, please, you know, help us to finish this, and we're willing to work with you guys. But also, you know what? It's our house. This is a place that I see my kids grow. See them teenagers get married in it, but in a house, my husband works so hard for it. And it's been working very hard. That's
Thank
the
you.
only thing.
Thank you.
And about the balcony, I don't know. I think it's very nice to see the balcony there because my son likes it. And if my son likes it, why not to not have it a balcony? Who knows? Maybe the neighbors in 2 years, they decide to knock down the house. And then they build whatever they want. Why not give it that to my son if he wants a balcony? I'm saying except, you know, there are a few changes, but not the whole thing. You know, I hope if you guys have kids, I hope you understand.
Thank you.
All right? Thanks.
Thank you. Have any more cards?
No, it's a different project.
Front balcony or the
Okay.
big balcony?
Architect, if you,
The one in the front.
if you have any more
The right side of the elevation.
comments you need to add?
My comments would be, the landscape, as Chris said, I just noticed because it was changed on the plans from the previously submitted and the new one. Either one, we can change, we can cut the concrete in the front, we can go back to the design submitted from the beginning. As a condition of the project, the balconies, you heard what they want. Really, they want the balcony. And even I have some pictures of recently finished houses in the neighborhood. They have balconies. And they're much uglier than, I don't know. This is the house recently, even it's not finished.
You need to speak in the mic.
That's I think the address for that. That's the house, a few houses up the street. And they always complain why these houses have been approved and they're building, but ours is not. And they have the balcony, but we have the balcony too. But doesn't matter what they say, what doesn't matter what they want, but I know that professionally we have to come up with a professional and nice agreement and your opinion is very, very important, and I really appreciate if you have any suggestions in minor changes or design, color. I'm willing to work with you as a condition of the approval. So that's what I can ask. Then any condition, I welcome to offer, and we definitely will work around the conditions after the approval, of course.
Okay.
Thank you. Public session is closed. Anyone wants to start?
We'll start? I'll start.
You can start.
I think in general, I think it's okay. I just, there's some issues, though, that will make it be more successful, which is why we're here. I do think site plan-wise that the driveway definitely has to be reduced, so whatever configuration that we decide, I think that definitely has to be done. There's not supposed to be parking on the driveway, so that, that amount of concrete is unnecessary, and I think it diminishes the front of the house. We definitely want them to understand about the wall thickness. Since there is no, the whole interest of the windows and doors is that it is an inset window and door. So what they're showing here, the only way to make it happen is that it's a 2x6 wall at least. So make sure that's understood and is notated that there is that inset. The thing about the balcony, I don't have a problem with the balcony. I put them on front houses. I think that's fine. The issue was how it was done. So it's, in my mind, it's not that you have a balcony, it's that the way it was done previously. So that, I wasn't here last time, but that would be an issue I would have on the last one also. I think about unifying the front, I think it's really just a matter of, I sort of agree with staff. I don't know that you necessarily have to bring that porch element out beyond the dining room. I think what may help is if you actually brought a porch that went the width over to the garage and it was actually back so that you saw the dining room, that nice shape of the dining room stick out, and then it came back a little bit to a porch that went from the dining room over to the garage. So, and I think that would address the issues that staff had, which I think are valid. A couple of small things, the way the wrought iron works on the railing, I think that should be addressed. If it is going to be contemporary, then that ought to be kind of unified. I think it's not as appropriate now. I just think it needs to be addressed. The issue about the rafters or the outriggers, I do agree. It's a little tough, it's the whole problem when you have a one-way system done in the two ways, where at the corner you get those kind of funny situations where you would never actually build it. So that's always difficult. I think if you were going contemporary, I think it could actually just be removed and just have a nice clean line on the eave. That might be possible. We'll talk to the rest of the board on that. But otherwise, I think it would just be a matter of exposing the rafters and just show them from below, which I think would be successful also. That, I think, about does it for me. I just, I sort of think that entry, I think, would help if the entry is pushed back and became a porch that was from the dining room to the garage, which would let the roof come over with it, which I think was part of the issue.
How's that again?
This element, I don't know that you need this element, because they're not showing it in the roof form. So it's not, they're not really emphasizing this anyway. So the fact that it's pushed out, I think, is unnecessary. So if it happened back about here, and the doors maybe happened back here, so that was just a front porch space that went from here to here, and then that roof could extend over, and you would see that as one element. I don't understand. I don't think that's necessary, especially if you're not making an issue of it with the roof. So if that was kind of pulled across to here, and then maybe the door comes back, and that's a small change.
I think I have comments about the similar issues. I think I don't have a problem with the balcony. I think it's so minimal. It's just, first of all, I have to say the house has improved a lot since last time.
Yeah.
It looks much more horizontal. I remember exactly the meeting that we had and the points that we made. I think you've been able to address them effectively, and it looks very convincing, much more convincing than last time. I remember that there was an emphasis on the verticalness of the whole house, and you managed to make it more horizontal. And if I'm not wrong, you were presenting along with Franco last time. You were here in the same room with. It sort of feels like yesterday. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay, so you remember too. But the balcony, I think, is fine. I agree with the simplification of the rafters. I think it will help the house because it feels kind of mixed right now. To keep the rafters exposed and come up with a simple way of finishing them, I think they'll still be emphasized enough, and the simpler line of the eave will help the more contemporary style to work with the house. The entry piece, I think I can just draw something to be able to say it easily. I think it really wants to align itself with, it doesn't want to protrude from the face of the house. If it combines itself with this, then that becomes the main feature on the face, main entry of the house. You'll have time to come back in. Just by doing that, I think that volume will be simplified, and the entry, along with the next comment, which has to do with the landscaping, I think the landscaping, adding the landscaping to the front of the house will really help the house to be, and I don't know if I'm allowed to draw lines or not, but...
You did already, so why don't you go ahead and continue finishing up?
I think you can easily do this, and this becomes a good foreground for the house to come down to a landscape. And also, as you look out from the living room, it's much better to see landscaping than concrete. So both ways it becomes, I think it works for you. Then the last comment that I have, it still goes back to the vertical aspect that we talked about last time. It's much easier to say it, but
Why don't you stand over there?
I'll just speak from here. I think if you somehow change these to become not too slender but different, maybe I'm not saying round, or somehow if this differentiates itself from being a big surface with holes in it, this will have a much sort of a better way of finishing the layers, and it will help it to make it more horizontal, especially here on the side elevation. You can see if you do something that signifies this as a different top, it will help that to become a loggia or porch for the back. So I think all in all, the design has really improved a lot, and with these modifications, you shouldn't have a problem, in my view.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say we're here to make sure your project is done well, and it fits with the neighborhood, and not something that it's going to be outstanding project. There's certain things here that I see that it's not our fault, but it's more of what it's been presented to us. And I think it's our responsibility. We're sitting here to review and make sure that the design is done well, and certain things that hasn't been seen, and maybe something that you guys constantly see for 2 years, you guys really don't notice. And hopefully we can address those items and be able to make this project a much better project. I do agree that it is a much better project than what it was originally presented. It does have certain things there that I think it will improve. If we kind of address them, it will definitely improve the project from where it is now. I agree the driveway, I think it's an overkill. I think it definitely needs a lot more landscaping there, and I agree with Mr. Sarafian that by doing those changes, I think it would definitely increase the landscape area, as the staff mentioned, and also it will minimize the amount of parking, because it's very clear that you're going to have parking lot over there with the way that it's laid out. I'm not really sure about there's certain things that I want to comment on the details that has been introduced, and I'm glad that you brought this, because this is going to really help me to address one of the issues that I have, which is the fascia and the way that you explained the attachment, the extensions of the rafters, I guess you want to call it. The way that your photo is showing, I prefer this much better than what it's actually been rendered. So I don't know if the intention was to come up with this kind of a design. I'm not sure where we are with which direction you want to go with, but to me this is not a contemporary, not even anywhere close to be a contemporary architecture. So I think we need to put that aside and deal with what we have. And the details that you've included in the material board, I think if you follow that, I think you would be successful in coming up with certain conditions that addresses. One of the areas that I'm kind of not clear is this area. I know we talked about the entry. Well, what is this? It's just, I mean, there's no windows, there's nothing. If you look at the roof plan, it's covered all the way up to here, so it's going to be a dark space there that nothing's going to happen there. So I'm not sure what the intention was there. I mean, I don't know if you actually, I don't want to throw this curveball out there, but I don't know if you guys actually thought about switching this around and creating a kind of an open patio-looking type of an element there, that the doors can open up into this space, and then this could be your main entry, and the stairs are on this side. It completely works with your plan. I looked at it, but for me right now, that area is a dark space there with covered roof that I think you were trying to address the elevation without taking in consideration what you're creating as far as the space there. So I think that area, to me, it somehow needs to be either a window or some activity should occur there. Even the roof may have to be pulled back, maybe some trellis elements or something that happens there, that a fountain or something, and the doors or windows, some elements there happen that it creates a lot better activity there. I agree that pushing the entry back, I think it definitely, those columns really doesn't do any justice. And I would take this one step further, and using your comment and the detail that you proposed in the back, maybe that can be utilized to address this front porch column thing. So maybe that could be an element. But
Yeah.
in general, I think it's fine, but I think the front entry is the main thing that we're all having somewhat of an issue, and I think it can be addressed. And I definitely believe that the staff can work with you on that and just come up with some sort of a solution. I'm not saying you should change the entry, but again, I'm saying you need to not create a dark element there. I don't think you guys realizing that what you're getting there, and it's going to be very dark, and I don't think it's even landscape there, so I'm not even sure. I don't think you can even landscape there. So it's a space that you got dead end at one end, you got the garage wall on the other end, you got roof over it, and what is it? So and these are the things that we're seeing, and we're not trying to throw hurdles, but we see things there that it should have been addressed. For 2 years, you guys working on it, those things should have been addressed. And And, you know, I don't know where we are with this. I mean, I think by entry in that area, if we can leave it up to staff, can you guys work with them and, you know, pass the baton to you guys, or?
May I point out one thing on the plans?
Sure.
The thinking was the following. This mass is articulated basically by raising the eave line with respect to the eave of the garage. The thinking was to this roof line on the ground level, like you sketched, is somewhere around here, is extending this eave line across all the way here, say one level. So the eave line of the garage would extend horizontally. And
Yeah, but that's not addressing, that's creating, I mean,
It's making
right now,
more
the
dark-
way
it's making more
it
dark
is,
space inside.
I think the way it's drawn now, designed now, I think by breaking that eave line, raise it up higher, you're gonna have the opportunity, even if this roof is eliminated, you have the opportunity maybe open up under the eave line and bring some light in from over the roof here. By extending this over, this thing is the darkest look.
Yeah, I think if I may, I think there was a hope to address the verticality with the roof line. So I think we can assist the applicant in doing both and, not losing the horizontality that roof helps, but removing most of that roof so that there is a light space that you can have landscaping in adjacent to your entry. And it looks like either, as Board Member Melekian is saying, the entry can be turned in a way, or can be in that different location, and so that whole area has a potential to open up and get more light and air on the interior of the house as well as the front yard. So it would probably be a design that would be better for your needs in the end.
Can I make a comment? I think actually not aligning the two eave lines of the garage, and that helps.
I completely
Helps the entry. I forgot to mention it in my,
It's nicer that it's
Yeah.
high.
completely.
Yeah,
because
that
it gives it some life.
That the eave line over I guess that's the dining area, and the one over the garage are different heights. Yes,
Yeah.
we definitely see that.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good
think, I don't, all I'm saying is that I don't have a problem with it. I think it's probably better for the entry to be a more viable space, and plus that one of the comments that, along with the landscape issue that I mentioned, was that I definitely think that the top of that space should be trellised, and I have another sketch, but I can share it with you. But the point is that I think those kind of improvements can be done to bring light to that space and landscaping. So as you enter, you go through landscaping to enter your house, and I don't think replacing it with concrete will.
Yeah, I think there's,
better
we've
option.
heard agreement on that point, and I think we've seen the applicant also nod on that. Are you suggesting that a trellis be
No,
placed between that dining
The
area?
roof plan, I don't know if it can be seen, but
Just
In that area?
this area, if it's trellised along with the rafters that come down this way, this will bring light to that. And
Seems like that part of the roof could be totally removed, and
There's another thought there. And again, these are just design thoughts that I think it's going to definitely improve your area. And one other option, without switching everything around, is that you can cut this roof back. And imagine that this roof is back, so this thing is all open, without putting any trellis. But let me finish. So if you create that and you address the entry, and what you can do is you can have less steps coming up here, and you can open up a door and maybe have a Juliet balcony or something that kind of creates an activity right at the step landing there. So you have a window, something element there that is happening, and so it creates this more of an interesting element there. And it will, I don't have a problem with, but I have a problem with creating hole without going into a wall. And that, I think that's going to be a lot worse than having this long linear element there. But I think you can definitely play with that. You can even shift the floor on the second floor, or somehow shift the wall out and create some of these corbels there, so kind of give a scale down and then have the window, have it open up or something. So I think the key is that you need to look at the style of architecture, and then that will dictate a style, and it'll give you options of how to address certain conditions. And I think by telling yourself this is a contemporary, I think you're kind of backing yourself into a corner that you're not going to find any solutions. I think by truly understanding the style of architecture you're doing, then you can start researching and picking up different details and elements there that you can incorporate and come up with interesting. Every problem in architecture and building it has a solution, and to have a right solution and a wrong solution. And I think there are solutions there, but it's taken so long to get to this point. It's unfortunate, but I think there's definitely ways that we can address that, and I think we do have a building that can be modified to accommodate those issues.
Can I throw one more entry idea? Last entry idea.
So this is the third option.
Give you three options. If the door came back, the porch came out to this point, and then you had a door, rather than the balcony here, had the door out the side onto this roof. So the balcony was actually over the entry as a porch.
Yeah.
And then, because I think part of the problem with that balcony is it makes the roof look like a mansard roof, as opposed to coming up to a peak as an element. So it might be that the balcony is the thing that's over the entry. So I'm done.
Okay. Last option. Well, we've come up with a lot of different.
Yeah, so let's see if we could distill the conversation down into potential conditions that can become a motion. What we've heard is consensus to increase the landscaping and reduce the hardscaping at the driveway as condition one. We've heard to rework the entry and the open area in front of the entry. I don't believe we've heard consensus as to whether or not to reduce that entry and to move that entry back to the back wall of the house, but that there have been a few different ideas of arrangements of the entry and the balcony that have been put forward, so that we can work with the applicant in order to create the entry and the exterior space so that the entry sequence is filled with light and air and appropriate to the design. Then the matter of architectural style, I think we've heard some conflicting pieces on that. I think we've heard from Chair Malekian that this is really not a contemporary design, that it's more of a historic revival type design, and that the rafter tail detail that is incorporated on the materials board and those other details are richer than the contemporary design style that is shown. I just want to mention that typically on a historic type design, and Jay's here so he can correct me if I'm wrong, we would typically want the window-to-wall proportion to be different than on a modern design. So that would be a challenge, because typically on typically on a traditional design or a revival style design, the windows are of a smaller nature and the window to wall proportion is different. On contemporary designs, the windows are much larger and they're a much larger proportion of the wall. So that would be an element that would require some redesign if you were conditioned that the design should be more consistently traditional in nature?
I think I was more concerned about the rafter tails and how the rafter tails were being
Okay.
addressed. I think by thickening the wall thickness and creating the plaster, wrapping that in, they're already using a high-quality window. So I think by just having the thicker window profile and having the recess with I think that would be fine.
Okay, so that the configuration of the design can remain the same, but that the materials and details as shown on the material board, plus the windows to be recessed in the walls, and is that around the entire building as conditioned, or are we just focused on the front of the building for that recess?
It doesn't take square footage out of the building.
Well, it's going to. That's why I told him. I mean, that's it.
Inch and a half?
Well,
It has to be 2 by 6.
it's typically,
They are going to use 2x6 to get the R13 probably, or
yeah, well, in the past, what I know the board has...
Just so it's conditional.
In the past, what the board has conditioned is that the front and the visible sides of the house are recessed, and that allows some flexibility behind, because there are cost and space and material issues. So if that's a condition that we can apply here, because there's more concern with the front and the visible side portions of the house, then we can provide some level of flexibility for the applicant.
Yeah, for me, I think if you did the front of the house, the side of the garage, and maybe the second floor on the north side.
I think the perspective
Maybe.
is showing a fairly substantial recess. I think the perspective is,
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's at least 2 inches,
Yeah.
at least 2 inches to do that, to get that look. I mean, I would think, right? What is that? I think the lower wall on the north side is probably going to be fairly obscure, so I don't know that they would necessarily see that, but I think the second floor on the north side, at least the front half of that, should probably be done. And then on the south wall, you're gonna see that side like in the perspective. So I think there's some of the, obviously the back, but let me just say one thing about the soffit, the eave, the soffit. I think the two options maybe that we're talking about is a wood flat soffit or an exposed rafter tail, right? As opposed to this.
well, I'm looking at this is the most...
Yeah, so it's either an exposed rafter, or if you just took this off, it would be a flat soffit that could be wood.
Well, I don't want to take it off. I think it just let it look like exactly what they
As
submitted.
an exposed rafter tail, not as an implied element.
Yeah, I think
okay.
that's what
Okay.
they've been looking at.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that it?
That's it. I'm done.
That's it for us, if that's it for you.
Two other items. One is the smooth stucco. When you say smooth stucco, is it steel trowel stucco?
I don't believe that it's specified as steel trowel.
It says
If-
smooth stucco.
If you'd like for
I'm
that to
just
be
thinking,
conditioned,
You're using integrated stucco, color stucco, right?
The regular stuff over there, that is much smoother, plastic.
I think
I
if,
don't know if my colleagues have an opinion on that.
Are you worried that it will look,
Were you saying it should be steel trowel, or that it would be?
I think it should be steel trowel painted. Or let it be color integrated, but let it be steel trowel,
the real smooth?
smooth.
These kind of things I think is better with elastomeric paint, but I think it just cracks too much, but.
I
Actually,
think
like it.
having some texture won't
Never had a
hurt,
client.
Okay.
because otherwise it
All
will
right,
be...
so we'll just leave it as that. And then the other thing is that your I know it's...
Oh, the porch columns on the second floor, in
Oh,
the back, yeah.
That's right.
Stephanie? Porch columns on the second floor in the back.
that they not be expressed as part of the wall, but they be as
Individual columns.
individual columns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the chimney is low, so I think by the time they're done, it's going to look substantially different, so it needs to be higher.
So the chimney,
I think by the time they're done with the code analysis.
yeah,
I
it would
think-
probably be required to be taller,
Taller,
so
so-
we'll condition that as required by the Building and Safety Department.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think that small window that has a, on the main street
The horizontal
facade,
one?
there's a closet behind the small window on the top left? I think that should be a larger window. I mean, I know it's a closet behind it, but there might be a way to deal with that. Does it
I
help?
think it could be looked at. It's something they should look at, yeah.
Yeah, you may consider making it a larger window and deal with the part that you don't need, or somehow, because I think it will integrate itself better with the front elevation, because you don't want to show that there's this, like a bathroom or anything like that on the main facade.
Taller, narrower, doesn't have to be square, yeah.
Or something.
Okay. Is that a motion, or is that, are we going to repeat
You
it?
guys need to set the motion.
I'll make a motion.
I
if that's
guess.
the motion. I'll make a motion if that's the motion. Do we have all those items? Quite a few things we talked about, but if they're in it, I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve with conditions, right?
Approve with conditions, yes.
Second.
But there's a motion and there's a second to approve with conditions. Let me point out that one of the conditions we had in the staff report was to modify the guest house to match the front house.
Yes, that was given, yes.
And the window, was that a consideration or a condition? To consider this,
Before we jump on that, can we actually do that? I don't think we can, because that's not part of our, what we're looking at. Is that, it's a consideration.
The guest house, you mean?
The guest house, it's not part of it, so if it's not filed as part of the work, I don't think we can go, and I've come across this many times and I've been told, so I'm just,
we'll make it a consideration.
yeah,
No, I think that's a good point. Regarding the window on the front, is that a condition or a consideration? Because all the others
Yeah, it could be consideration.
okay, because all the other items that we mentioned would be conditions.
Okay, so roll call. Board Member Geragos,
Yes.
Board Member Zarifian,
Yes.
and Chairman Malakian.
yes.
Motion carries.
We need to take a break, or should we?
Let's
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Let's go, let's go.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and member of the board. The next item before you is project case number 2 PDR 2008-018-A, located at 1459 East Mountain Street. The property is located at the corner of Mountain Street and Royal Boulevard. The property is zoned R1R, Floor Area District 2, and it's located in the Rossmoor neighborhood, which is also one of our Woodlands neighborhood. The applicant is submitting this project for the first time for final review. The drawings are to your left on the board behind you. The proposal for this site is to demolish the existing one-story ranch-style house and construct a brand-new two-story house consisting of 4,202 square feet of livable area. The design of this new house will be in the French eclectic, French-inspired design, which is very different from the existing house on the project right now, but in a lot of ways consistent with most of the homes on this street, particularly Royal Boulevard. As part of the required code requirement, a new 3-car garage will be proposed. The third one, however, will be a tandem parking space, which is acceptable by code. The existing driveway along Mountain Street will be removed, and a new driveway will be proposed along Royal Boulevard. Just as an important note to make, the property is part of a historic district application that is currently going through the city process right now, also known as the Royal Boulevard Historic District. This district, as proposed, consists of 30 homes. This home in particular is one of 8 homes that is considered a non-contributor to the district. This project is not being reviewed under the requirements of an official historic district at this point. While Spanish colonial revival is a predominant architectural style in the neighborhood, other revival style homes also exist, such as English Tudor revival, American colonial revival, and Mediterranean revival. As such, the chosen style is very consistent with the context of this neighborhood. And also, the floor area and the site planning of the home is also consistent, given the selection of homes on Royal Boulevard. Similarly, the material that the applicant is proposing to use are also consistent, and they appear to be high-quality material. As you can see, aluminum-clad wood windows will be used. The body of the building will be steel trowels, smooth plastered, and there will be a tile roof as well as a standing seam metal roof on portions of the buildings in the back. And staff feels that given the project site planning, mass and scale, and the building design, as well as detailing of the building, staff recommends approval of the project with condition. However, I would also like to make a note, which was recently made aware to staff, and which was not reflected in the staff report, is that one of the palm tree located along Royal Boulevard is proposed to be removed. Staff feels that the palm trees collectively on this street is seen as an identifying feature of this neighborhood and should not be removed. Although the applicant has indicated that there was an agreement made, or the urban forester would not oppose to removing the palm tree at this time. However, staff had a discussion with the applicant, and he feels that a new driveway approach could be provided to accommodate the garage as proposed on the plan, and he will speak further on that issue. Also, an important feature on the property is an existing of an oak trees right in the middle of the lot, centrally located. As such, the house is sited toward the rear of the property, which is consistent with the location of the house right now. Mitigation measures have been provided by the urban forester for the protection of the oak trees. And that concludes my presentation. If you would like me to go over the recommendation, I'd be happy to, as well as the conditions.
Please.
Actually, one of the conditions would be to provide steeper pitch roof, provided that the overall height is within the height limit per the zoning code. 2, the dormer should be more robust in size and provided with more details consistent with the French Revival, French-inspired design. And 3, all windows surround should be treated with precast concrete moldings. And a 4th I would like to add is that the palm tree shall be retained as part of the overall project, which is located in a public right-of-way. The applicant, Franco Noravian, is in the audience to answer any additional questions you may have. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Franklin?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. Franco Noravian, 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I'm the architect for the project. Really, this project is designed around the oak tree. That's the biggest constraint, because it's right in the middle of the site, and we have to work around it. Even the shape of the project, I mean the building, is dictated by the location of the oak tree. And as far as the style, that's the style that my client prefers to have, as opposed to a Spanish colonial revival. But I'd like to thank the staff, because they really worked with me, and they guided me in the right direction to make it the best that I could in the style that we had chosen. Let's see, as far as some of the comments about the driveway, I can move the driveway to be after that palm tree, but if you look at the the pattern, we have a survey there. If you look on the survey, there's already the distance between the palm trees has already been increased because there was a palm tree that's been taken out by the city a few years back. So if we take out this new palm tree where the driveway is going, you will have the same distance, at least the beginning of Royal Boulevard will have the same distance between the first two palm trees. And I can come up there and show it to you if it's a little too confusing. So anyways, I prefer not to move it because if I move it a little bit more, there's a storm drain there. And if I move it beyond that, I'm sure it can be accommodated, but we're getting closer to the corner of Royal Boulevard and Mountain, and I'd rather not have the driveway as close to the corner. But it can be done, so I'll leave it up to you to see what you think. I also want to point out that was another reason that this whole project started out, because the location of the current driveway is almost dangerous. The way it backs out and it's in a corner, so one of the requirements was to move the driveway. And in the process, what we ended up doing is basically take the pool from where it is now and move it where the driveway is and swap the driveway with the pool. And I think it works. Any other thing I want to talk about? No, I think I have no problem with the conditions. But condition number one, the reason we don't want to do a steeper roof is we don't want to block the neighbor to the north. So I would prefer to keep the roof the way it is. But as far as conditions 2 and 3, I don't have a problem with either one. And we are already proposing a precast on the windows. If that wasn't made clear, that's what my intention was. And I can work on the dormers with staff.
Let me ask you this, creating the steep roof, can the top of the ridge or wherever the highest point is remain, and the steepness kind of drop so that, it starts working within because I don't have a section, so is that?
Well, maybe we should put up the section. It can work. It would make it more complicated, but it can work.
For you? Or?
No, just construction-wise, it would make it more complicated. These days, with the code requirements to do that kind of a coffered ceiling, it would create a coffered ceiling in the rooms, and the windows will become actual dormers as we go around.
I think it's starting to do that here.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried to do as much of it as I can without making it too complicated. But another thing to consider, I guess, when you view it from the eye level, the roof would appear more steeper than when you were looking at flat elevations. So I don't know if that makes a difference. But overall, I think if we have to drop the plate, we'll drop the plate, but I prefer not to raise the height because I don't want to.
What's the ceiling height here?
It's 9 feet on the second floor.
9 feet.
And then we have a petition from some of the neighbors, the immediate neighbors that saw the project and signed under support.
Thank you.
If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, that's it.
Okay. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean? Is it Callie?
Good afternoon, Board. This is Arafian, Gorgos. It's uncommon that I perform well in this type of a setting, and it is very common that I get nervous. And thank you for staff making yourself available. My name is Sean Cayley. I'm here with my wife. I'm here with my wife, Shab. And we're the proud owners of, not owners, we're the proud parents of 2 children, Alexander, 11, and Katrina, 10 years old. We've been proud resident of Glendale for approximately 10 years. And prior to becoming a resident of Glendale, we resided in Orange County, and my wife and I were in search of an environment that would be conducive for growing our children. And as both my wife and my family are very family-oriented, it was a priority for us to create an environment that would provide our children with the same type of setting. And when we were introduced to Glendale, Glendale provided us with exactly the features that were important to us, family-oriented, the characteristics of the homes, the neighborhoods, the programs that were available for children. So we decided to make Glendale a permanent resident for us and the family. With all due respect, I'd like to bring to your attention, maybe even refresh your memory. We were here, my wife and I were here with a different supporting staff approximately 4 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago, and we had submitted our plans with the same attempt to develop this lot. Unfortunately, we were not working with the most competent supporting staff, as I am not an architect nor am I a designer, and I did not make a good decision. And the board, in their own diplomatic way, let us know that what we have presented to them was really not acceptable. I think the contingencies and the conditions that were imposed would have probably required a complete renovation of the plans that we had. So we became very humbled by the comments that were made, and we took the comments into heart. And in fact, I expressed an appreciation for the comments that were made. Does that mean I need to stop?
You need to wrap up. You only have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Even though I'm enjoying what you're saying, but
I'm sorry, I was unaware that there was time limitation. I apologize.
No problem.
We're submitting these plans in an attempt to, again, create an environment that's conducive for our children. It is our intent to have our children occupy this home, and we will be proud owners of this home. And there is one feature of this home that is extremely important to us, and that is to provide features to the children that would allow the children to stay home and bring their friends home, versus going out and being possibly becoming a part of a mischief, which is very, very common in today's society, unfortunately. I'm very proud of my wonderful wife and my wonderful children. I have 2 children. She has 3, myself being considered as one of her children. I feel that we're in good hands, and with the support of Mr. Franco, I'm sure that we would be able to produce the type of setting or the type of architectural setting that is acceptable by the staff and by the board. And just one other thing, if I may share. I am aware that we are in a historical setting, and as much as our home may not be considered as one of the historical homes within this community, it was our fullest intent to provide the elevation or the home that would be consistent with the homes within our community. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to stand up and say what I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sonia Montano.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm here as a supportive neighbor of the Kali family.
Can you think you're next, if you can give your address, please.
Yes, I live at 1415 Royal Boulevard, and that's the house directly to the north of them. So, like I said, I'm here in support of their project. I think it's going to be a huge improvement for our street. It marks the entry into what will soon be Glendale's first historic district, and I'm very happy with the choice of home, the style that they've selected. We don't have enough of these French-inspired homes in the neighborhood, so I think that's very nice. I'm here to just listen a little bit more about the plans. I was concerned a little bit about the recommendation to raise the pitch of the roof, and that it would block some of the horizons we have from our second floor balcony.
Right.
But I do believe that the architect has answered my questions in that regard. So basically, I'm just here in support of the Collies project.
Thank you very much. Reinhard?
Good afternoon. My name is Reinhard Noor. I'm a resident in the neighborhood, about 400 or 500 feet away from the site. I'm here as just a concerned neighbor, and have looked at the plans, looked at the report by the Rather Duong, the case planner for the project, and just have a couple comments to make. I have an admission to make. I was the guy who brought up the issue about the palm tree over here on the project. So to me, that is one of the important defining features of that street. I feel that it's important at least that we work with it, or at least understand what is being removed, or that we work around that if possible. I'm a big proponent of trees in the neighborhood. That's what I think is one of the characteristic defining features of the area. So we should do whatever we can to save it. Although that'll create some issues, I'm sure, with the design of the garage and the flow. So I'd be interested to see how that is being resolved. As a second item, the issue, one of the items that was brought up by the case planner was that currently the house is surrounded with very high hedges and pretty much blocks the view of the existing house. I don't know what is currently planned for that, but one of the things that was pretty important is that most of the houses have a setback, but you're able to view the houses from the street and have a rather unobstructed view of the lawns and things like that. One of the things that was brought up was that such a hedge that is currently planned should not be included in the final design. I would hope that be followed up with, although that will create problems with the design of the pool that will be at the front of the house. Of course, there will have to be some kind of retaining / fencing to comply with current codes for that. And other than that, the only other thing I would say is the house is currently about a 10-foot elevation above Mountain Street, and if there's going to be any further modifications made to the elevations that we have presented to us today, that reflects that elevation to see what that will look like pretty much on a promontory as it will appear. Other than that, I thought it looks like a great home, and I welcome the design that you guys have over here. But in terms of just maintaining some of the aesthetic features with regard to vegetation, those are some of my major concerns. But thanks for your time.
Thank you. Franco?
Let me talk about the hedge for a minute, because that issue came up when I first presented. Staff actually brought that up to my attention. Because of the location of the tree and where we're forced to put the house, essentially there is no backyard. So the only way to have a yard is to have the hedge, or the fence. It's actually a fence. It's a fence that was approved. Well, it was first, there was a variance granted. Oh, no, the variance was denied, but the city council approved it. I don't remember the date, but all that paperwork is in the file.
It's quite an old variance. It was approved April 20th, 1982.
Okay. So the council approved it. And I had conversations with the zoning administrator to make sure that we would be able to keep the fence, because I knew that it's very important for my client, and she agreed that we would be able to do that. So I would like for my client to be able to keep it, but because it is important. I mean, without the fence, it's pretty much you're telling him that he can't have a backyard. And again, the driveway can be worked out. If it won't be a direct access to the garage, so I'd rather leave it the way it is. But if we have to bring it down and go between the other two palm trees, then you'd have to come around and
Did
turn.
you have a catch basin there?
There is a catch basin.
Exactly. So if I move it if I move it over a little bit, there's a catch basin. I would have to move it all the way.
2 trees over.
Yeah, 2 trees over to be able to get in. So, anyways, that's all I have.
But that, if you do that, then you're going to get closer to the intersection, so you're going to go back to what you have, the issue that you have.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I would just like to confirm what Mr. Naravian just stated about the variance and the conversation he had with the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator has opined and in writing that the project could retain the existing fence if necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. I agree with staff on the issues, but I don't think it's necessary to raise the pitch. I don't think that's necessary, and I think there's good reasons why you wouldn't want it higher. So, at least for me. The issue about the 2 dormers, I think is correct. Also, that I don't think the tops of the dormers should actually project. A lot of times you see that element come up as the same plane that works into it, as opposed to it being kind of an eyebrow. So there's a lot of examples of that you can find. It tends to be the wall come up with a cap on it kind of look. One thing that's kind of unfortunate, I know he had a really difficult site plan to work with, but it's just so unfortunate that garage door is right by the front door, and that the combination of those elements, I think, is unfortunate. And I wasn't sure if there was any way of getting that to recess at all. Even if that was possible to recess it slightly, somehow to minimize its impact, at least where the door was possibly. The other thing was, I wasn't sure whether the arches necessarily helped you on the lower level there, like the one that's out to the left of the door, and then the garage doors. I wonder if those had been more of a horizontal element, so that you could make them higher, because it kind of, I think it's unnecessarily low because you were trying to bring the 2 across, even though that floor is raising up in that room. So that might be something to look at. The other thing is, you go around the side, the half-circle porch. There's no name on it, but I always question when the wall gets so small that it becomes a column, but you still treat the precast going up and down as if it's an opening in a wall, and it's getting so close that I'd almost make it a column. Make it a nice turn cast column. It's not heavy, something like 8 inches or so that could be light, and within the precast element, not too heavy. But I think when it gets so small, it might as well be a nice column as opposed to the precast element. Other than that, I think sometimes and again, this would be the detailing issue you might want to look at with the eave, as to how the eave works on that, because sometimes that detail that's on the slide fascia, the gutter will be part of the fascia, and then the detail will start to come down the wall a little bit, so it makes kind of a nice frieze at the top. So there's actually some precast that comes down the wall slightly, so that becomes a larger kind of element. So it doesn't feel like it's just the classic kind of soffit element. There's actually something that works with the gutter and then down the wall slightly as a precast element. And I think that's about it. The only other thing might be the way the cantilever works on the balcony above. You might do something to how either have it scalloped or something the way the underside of the balcony as it projects has an element feature to it. That's about it. I can think of now. Unless I think of something else.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of the comments that the staff has made, with the exception that I don't think the pitch needs to be different. I think it's close enough. If it was a matter of a few, like 3 or 4 feet, then that's different, but I don't think it needs that much of a difference. But overall, I like to say that it's an amazing design. When first I saw it, I sort of wanted to look for the plan, and then I realized I was looking at the plan. So it's a nice design because I think this is a very difficult site, and I think the fence is totally necessary in my view, because it's an existing condition. I have many friends that live in the same area, and somehow I hadn't noticed this turn, which happens to be one of the one of the busiest corners. So if you take that fence away, you take the privacy of that house to be able to exist there. So I think it's a very good solution. The fence itself, that one day someone thought that maybe I need a fence to give me some privacy, and it's a good thing. And it will help the house not only for its privacy, but also from the point of view of the scale of this house being at that corner. The combination of the house and the fence will be a good one, which I hope that we had somehow represented it, but the point is that the house will be behind the oak tree, because the oak tree is so prominent. So you almost have to imagine the house behind the oak tree. I think the dormers to be more robust, maybe the color to resemble the wall, so it kind of reappears, or something that continues and makes it belong to the wall construction. But I'm not suggesting that it has to be, but first I thought it has to have something continue and let it be more robust. And also it might be the way it's drawn and rendered, but I think the details around the main entry looks like concrete surround, right? I think it has to be continuous throughout the house. It has to be consistent, and it will help it and make it a much more crisper and stronger, which I think that's what the staff has recommended. So it will be to the benefit of the house. The palm tree, if it's a tough one in my mind. I don't exactly know where you may come back later and show it the exact location that you were proposing, if you don't have to move it. Can he do it now?
I think he was just saying between these two.
I think that will put the entry too close to the corner. I think it might be a hazard to any driver that goes around that corner. So I would tend to, because of the safety issue, I would rather lose a tree than drivers. So that, to my mind, I like to make a decision simple. So to me, that aspect is, at least at this point, is clear. But you could still pull the entry into the yard a bit further away from the wall. It seems like it's too tucked to the corner, by a few feet, I mean. The other thing is that I think the railings need to be in the robust family of things. It needs to be, it seems kind of the weak element. As I looked at the elevation, the house has a different weight to it, so somehow you need to bring it into the overall detailing to be sort of a heavier look. Not precast, not that heavy, but you know, I mean, just
More of
just
an ornamental wrought iron.
yeah, something that has puts it in the same category of look. I don't know how exactly to explain, but you know what? You know what? Then there was one. Oh, and in terms of the porches, I noticed the similar thing that like the railing, the front porch, the circular one, seems a bit kind of light. And also, if you look at the other porch, if the house has two porches, I would think that it would be nice if they look more alike than different. So I would think to unify them, and the same comment is very true. I think the wall has lost its presence and wants to become a column, but it's not a column. So it kind of they both go together. So it's a matter of finding the right solution and see if you can. Maybe if it doesn't have as many openings and can bring the wall back or something in that nature. Let's see if I have. I think that's basically it, unless. I'm not sure about the arches, as Mr. Giracos mentioned. I can't imagine it yet. If they become straight, it might be a good thing, but it might be something to consider. But I don't see how the garage can be pushed back. And the garage.
Well, the problem is it's making the symmetry of the door. That's the difficult part about it.
Yeah.
I just think it's unfortunate that it's so close.
It's right next to it.
Yeah.
The one more suggestion I have is that on the mountain elevation, that there's the window on the top left next to the chimney. I think the wall next to it, I know behind it there is a closet. I think it won't hurt if you have a similar window on the other side to break that mass of the wall, because it seems like all of a sudden there's this big amount of stucco with nothing. And you can control the light into the closet, and sometimes it's a good thing. It doesn't have to pour into the...
This one?
You're saying add it to the rear elevation?
Yeah, just
Where
like...
does that go?
It goes... I think it goes...
In the closet?
The window will be there. But you don't need to... you don't need to leave the window open, but I think the wall needs something to break it up. But that's my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the... And it's a suggestion, and that's about what I had.
I like it. I think you did a great job hiring Franco. I think he did a wonderful work. You pretty much covered everything except that last window, which I don't think it's a big deal. As far as the palm tree, I kind of understand what Franco's mentioning, that, by removing that, you're going to start creating the same gritting, whereas right now you got three very close to each other. So even having said that, it's outside of our scope of work, so it's something that you need to work with Public Works, and I don't know how much of a power we have to discuss about the trees and everything, but it is impacting the actual driveway, so I guess we can talk about that. So I'll leave it up to you and staff. As far as the arches, I have no problem with the arches. I think everything is done exceptionally well. It's a style of architecture that if I need to do, I need to sit there and study this for almost a year to understand every detail and every condition that it's appropriate. So I think Mr. Garagos covered all these little elements there that I would not be able to kind of pick, but one thing that I kind of disagree are the arches. One question that I have, which you don't need to answer, is that little window right above that garage. It looks great from outside, but that little window's on the floor in that bedroom. By the way, you missed two closets, the closets in those bedrooms, so you got to put closets. But other than that, I think it's a beautiful project. I think you've done a very nice job. And just a quick other comment going back to that driveway, I think I would do whatever I can to keep it far away from the intersection as possible. I think you already have a problem where it is right now, so I don't think you want to repeat the same issue. So I agree. I think the location is appropriate. Other than that, I think the materials are great, the colors are great. I think the space, the window selections and the details, I think it's just fantastic. So I'm fully supportive of the project.
I have one question. The roof material of the lower porches are different from the top. Do you think that in terms of the color difference, it might be an issue, or?
You mean the metal roof versus?
Yeah.
I actually like that. I think
that's good. It gives it a difference.
Yeah.
That's why I think it should be column.
I would, if I had the, I can, but if we had the budget, I would just go one step further and go into a copper and maybe patina copper or something there. But that would be incredible.
Yeah. What is the material now?
It's a metal, dark green metal.
Painted?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I would think that patina copper would be nice.
You got to have a security there all the time. They're gonna, people are gonna rip it off the first day you leave the house. So I think that's where we are. So if you want to hear the comments.
So, would you like us to read back some of the comments as consideration? First off, regarding the tree, staff would recommend that the applicant work with our traffic engineer and maintain the tree unless it's absolutely not possible. So that's how we would recommend that condition to be written, simply because the trees are a characteristic feature of the boulevard. So that's what we would recommend on that
But we
point.
need to agree on the recommendation or not, correct?
Of course.
Okay.
And then as far as the comments, I have a long list, so bear with us. We have consensus that the fence does not need to be removed, so there will be no mention of that. Consensus that the pitch, roof pitch as designed is fine, so there will be no mention of that. The details around the main entry are cast concrete, and all of the details should be concrete. We understand that that's as proposed, but if you'd like, we can put that as a condition. The railing should be an ornamental wrought iron to fit with the French provincial style. The two round porches should be unified so that the thickness of the column is consistent. We heard that from, I think, board member Zarifian and Garagos, but not from the chairs. So there was a little disagreement on the unifying the porches.
Well, I don't have a problem when you're unifying it. I agree with them. I just don't want to reduce the amount of openings on the larger porch.
No, I wasn't suggesting to reduce
Okay,
it.
that's the only thing I just clarified.
No, I agree. It has to be very open, but
Right.
I was just thinking that maybe the number of, as one idea, that maybe the number of the arches could be different, as one way of looking at it, but that was a suggestion of.
Okay, so that's a consideration to unify the porches, but I think there's agreement that the actual width of the support is
There a
consistent.
precast column
Yeah.
or like a concrete column or something there that can actually act as...
So there's agreement that it reads as a column, not as part of the wall.
Yeah, I can state it in a different way. If they have to be different, then they really have to be very different, so it looks intentional, because right now it seems like the other one is kind of trying to be like the next one. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. I think we have that. We'll try to translate that. You'll see that in a minute. We also have a comment that the underside of the balconies should be treated also as a French provincial style would be treated. We have a comment that the half rounds that break the roof, those aren't actually dormers. That was, I think, a misstatement of ours in the staff report, that the half round does not need to project but can be flush with the wall as long as it does break the roof.
Yeah.
When staff was referring to the dormers, by the way, I think we were referring to the small roof fence. And if
That's what I
the
thought.
board is fine with the way they are, then there will be no mention of those. Is that right? Okay.
Could be, yeah. Sure.
And there was discussion about an additional window next to the fireplace for that piece of blank wall, but I don't believe that there was agreement on that point.
I think because it's around the side, your window, the window you wanted to add.
Oh, that?
So
I think, well, at that elevation is facing mountain, and it seems like...
It's actually neighbor.
Is it?
It's this elevation.
It's this elevation, so it's facing
That
right there.
corner.
Oh, that's the neighbor side.
Yeah.
Then I thought I looked at it mistakenly.
Yeah,
I
it is,
thought-
because that's the extension there.
Yeah, so it's not that big.
okay, so we shouldn't list it as a consideration at all.
No.
Okay. And I know there was full agreement that it should be patina copper roof on the small porches, but I don't think that you wanted to include that. Okay.
It's too expensive.
We all agree that's a good idea.
Chop
But-
down about 1,000 square feet of the house.
So with that, I think that's all we have in our notes.
Going back to your first item on the tree recommendation, I think knowing the fact of where the actual catch basin is, by moving the driveway in between the two existing palm trees, I don't think it's going to work. So I think you cannot put a driveway where there's a catch basin. So I think either the driveway is going to move further south in between the two larger palm trees, but that itself is going to be a problem. I think I have a problem. Even if Tom Mitchell doesn't have a problem, I would have a problem.
Is there a way of changing the catch basin that can be right at the driveway? I mean, I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think there's. I think that's
That's
beyond.
not,
I think
That's
beyond.
the city engineer purview. That's
I
not
know,
our purview. So
I think the easy solution is what he's recommending, and I think the other solution could be that if everybody insists on having a tree, I think we can remove that tree and plant it in between the two other trees. So the same where are we? So, you want to
Oh, the Pilgrim?
Oh, it's like, okay. So you have one palm tree here, another one here, and you have two very close to each other. So my suggestion is that if we need to keep this, you already have a very far distance between these two. So you can take this, move it here, and then you can maintain the same, basically this three will move forward, and then you have the two in the back. So I think that could be one solution.
Yeah.
But I think the driveway needs to stay as far away from the intersection as possible, so.
Okay, so as far as a condition for that, a consideration to work with the traffic engineer
Consideration is fine.
and maintain the palm tree if possible, or relocate that palm tree if not possible.
we have a motion?
Is there also, are you leaving the option to remove the palm tree altogether, or it's either option
At this
to...
moment, I think his plan is calling for that, and I don't have a problem with that, to remove it. But if he comes to another solution that works with everybody, I'm fine with that also. I don't know if you guys are, but I agree with him that it needs to be removed. Now, if we need to replan it to maintain the characteristics of the street, let him move one bay down or one tree down.
So that'll be a consideration.
That would be the, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Then we can change all the spacings of the rest of the...
I'm sure the owner will be happy to provide that change to the entire street.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve with conditions.
A second?
Okay, this will be roll call. Mr. Galgos,
Yes.
Mr. Sarifian,
Yes.
and Chair Malikian.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You received copies of the July 17th, 2008 minutes. Actually, the 31st minutes were listed on the agenda, however, those are not ready for your review.
You guys had a chance to...
You know, I printed it
Yeah.
out.
Do you want us to continue it? Should we continue?
If you can read it right now. Oh, he hasn't, okay, all right. We can continue if he hasn't.
I'd rather continue the minutes, or if
Okay.
you haven't, yeah, I'd rather continue. 'Cause we're
Staff,
gonna have to...
at this time, doesn't have any other announcements. Thank you.
All right, and we're adjourned.